Good morning. Today is October 17th and welcome to our short video for the Saturday labor art classes on October 17th. I'm Evelyn Hershey, the Education Director at the museum, and today for our art lesson and our art project, you'll simply need a piece of paper and a pencil, most importantly, those two materials. Crayons, markers, some color is a little extra. You can bring them along too for your project. So today's lesson is focusing on some mystery tools. People who go to work use tools on the job. You can think of various jobs that people do that require tools. What types of tools do nurses use on the job or carpenters use on the job? Every job requires tools. So we're going to look at several tools today. We took a quick look at them last Saturday that are from the silk mills of Paterson, New Jersey. And Paterson, you'll remember, was nicknamed the Silk City because the city produced high-grade silk products for all types of uses. Clothing, upholstery, curtains, even parachutes were made of silk. And inside of the silk factories, thousands of primarily immigrant workers made that silk, and they used machines which had equipment that we call tools. So we're going to look at some of those. But first I'd like to share with you a basic loom. Textile is made on looms, and this is a lap loom or a hand loom, and you may have used one in school in art class or seen one. Weaving, which is the process that takes place on looms, is pretty simple, and I just like to explain it to you by using this lap loom, and then we'll look at our mystery tools. So we have here, you can see different color threads. The white threads, which run up and down vertically on my lap loom, are called the weft threads. And before weaving takes place, somebody, you, if you have done a weaving like this, will put your weft threads on your loom. It's really easy to do. And then you'll start weaving with your your weft threads. These are your warp threads. I got that backwards. These are your warps. This is your weft. So warping is done first, and then the weft thread is the thread that goes back and forth, up and down, between each of the warp threads, right? That's our test for the day. Warp and weft. In my left hand, I have some of the weft thread wrapped around what we call a shuttle. And what I will do with this by hand, again, this is a hand loom or a lap loom, is I will take the now green yarn and alternate over, under, over, under. What kind of threads? The warp threads, until I get to the other side. I will tamp down that row of green thread, and then I will bring it back the other way. Doing the opposite. If I went over a weft thread, I will go under it on the next row. And that way the warp and the weft thread are bound together, and we can see cloth growing on our loom. We might change color. I have some orange yarn here. I could put some rows of orange and change the pattern in many different ways. So that's the basic work that was done in the silk mills. The silk that was used was much finer than my yarn. In fact, it's as fine as your hair. This large bobbin has some silk on it, a little knotted up at the beginning of it, but you can see how it almost looks like hair and is as thin as your hair. So you have to have very careful and good hands to work with silk. So our first mystery tool, take a close look. We're using our eyes for our art project today too, is also a shuttle. And we looked at this same shuttle last Saturday. Our hand loom shuttle and our shuttle for a mechanical loom. Look at the difference. The mechanical loom has a little more to it. It's a little more complicated. You can see in the center that there is the thread, as with my hand loom. There is what we call a quill. This is a quill, or a poppet in the center that holds the silk thread. I have a loose one here, another poppet or quill with blue thread on it. It's placed inside of the shuttle with some soft wool on either side, which actually cleans the silk as it is woven between the warp threads. The shuttle also has pointed ends. Both ends have a metal cap or point that permits the shuttle to travel through the warp threads at very fast speeds. On mechanical looms, the warped and the weft thread needed to come together quickly to make cloth in a certain period of time. So speed was important. These shuttles traveled very quickly back and forth across the looms, sometimes as fast as 25 miles an hour. And a weaver's job was to watch these shuttles and make sure the loom was operating correctly. These shuttles are primarily made of wood and have a little bit of heaviness to them. I think they always look like a submarine because of their shape, long and narrow with points on either end. So no longer a mystery tool. You know what this is. Let's take a look at another tool that is much smaller that was used in a silk mill. And I will hold it up for you as close as I can to the camera so you could see there's a little hook at the top and at the bottom, a handle. What do you imagine you might do with this type of tool? And there were workers in the silk mills who used these tools all day, every day. And remember, they worked 10-hour days, Monday through Friday, and 5 hours on Saturday for a 55-hour work week. And the people who used these tools were very good at working with the fine threads of silk. You may see tools like this in other workplaces today, or tools that remind you of it. Someone who works with something that's very fine and delicate. Somebody who is a craft worker or a hand worker, or elsewhere. A very fine, light, delicate tool. It was used by warpers, those individuals who set up the loom before the weavers came in to do their job with the weft threads. So the warpers would pull threads of silk using this very small hook at the top through very narrow parts of the loom. Let me show you a section. Can't bring a whole loom here. It's really big and really heavy. You can see them at the Paterson Museum, and it's very fun to go there. This is a section of the loom, and see how you can sort of see me through it? It's not solid. It is actually made up of very thin slats of metal that are put together at the top and the bottom. So that's why we can see through it. And what we can do with it too, and what the warpers did, is they would take their warping tool. I'm left-handed, so I'll do it with my left hand. You may do it with your right hand. And they would insert it through the metal slats. Almost looks like magic, but it's not. There's space between each of these thin metal slats. And then they would hook the little hook with a piece of silk and pull it through, and do the same with the next slat, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, so that pulled through this section of the loom would be like a spider web of all of these threads that then the shuttle, with the weaver's direction, would weave in and out of, in and out of. A warper could not do their job without a warping tool like this one, this delicate hand tool. So what's another important tool in a silk mill? Well, you can probably guess what this one is very easily. I gave you a hint because it's from a silk factory. You're not going to think, well, this came from a gym. So this is what I use to make myself stronger by lifting it up and down. No, no, for sure. This is a large bobbin that would be filled with silk, so that the warper, when the warper was ready to set up the loom, would have plenty and long lengths of silk to do that job. Smaller versions, which we looked at before, might be one like this. This is a filled bobbin, and you can see the silk already on it. The bobbin, made of wood, would hold quite a lot of silk. And here's another one, quite full, with a red color silk. And you can see the wood and the hole at the top so it could sit on a spindle and be filled by the machine. So these tools were very important in the silk mill too, bobbins. So what are we going to do with these mystery tools, no longer mystery tools anymore? Our bobbin, our shuttle, and what was the last one, the most delicate one? Our warping tool. Well, we're going to take our pencil and our paper, and we're going to draw a tool. So that sounds a little easy and boring, but this is what I would like you to do. You may use one of these tools as the subject of your picture, or you may look in your house and find a tool there. Is there a hammer in your home? Is there a computer in your home? Those are tools that people use for various jobs. Think of other jobs that people complete. There are people who clean your school. What do they use to clean your school? A broom? A bucket? Do you have a broom or a bucket at home? Pull them out. And then what we're going to do with our paper and pencil is draw them. Not the way we think they should look, but the way our eyes tell us they will look. So don't just assume, oh, I'm drawing a bucket. I know what a bucket looks like. Put the bucket on the table in front of you and really look at it and draw exactly what you see. That's a really important exercise for artists. Artists always use their eyes to draw what they see. It's a really good exercise for them. Not what they know should be there, but what they see. If you draw your bucket, you may not see the handle the way it's positioned in front of you, or some part of it. Your picture will look more realistic if you draw what you see, not what you know or think is there, but what you see. So let's use our eyes today with our pencil and paper and draw a tool, a mystery tool from the silk mills of Paterson, or a tool at home that you can borrow for a short time to make a picture. Take 20 minutes and see how your picture turns out of a mystery tool. Happy art making, and I'll look forward to seeing you next Saturday.